putting goodbye and best wishes. And so we have adapted some prayers in our prayer book, but I want to earth this moment in the tradition of Anglican spirituality. There's a wonderful prayer that's about 500 years old. Remember, O Lord, what thou hast wrought in us, and not what we deserve. Remember, O Lord, what thou hast wrought in us, and not what we deserve. And in modern, if you translate that from Episcopalese, it is, let us not forget what you've started in us, gracious God, even though we often may have difficulty seeing or owning it. So that's the larger context in our celebration today, and celebrating Cam's remarkable ministry. And that ministry began in family. Cecily's here, sisters here, husband, children are with us in prayer. And it begins in family, and then the community helps to tell us who we are and what we're good at and what maybe God is calling us to do and where we can make a difference in the world and serve the common good. And we all need people to reflect back onto us what they see. And for some, we need trusted friends who journey with us as we seek that sense of what God wants us to do. And for some, the call to the ordained ministry, to the diaconate and to the priesthood, is a long journey of questioning and discernment. And Ed Johnson, while he was vicar here, created a discernment committee to journey with Cam, who was then the director of religious education. And so as we tell the story, we are reflecting on Cam's amazing journey. I've invited the original discernment committee to kind of begin that reflection. So I've invited T. Nolan, John Reed, and Mimi Babcock to come and to also to make a presentation of a stole, a clergy stole, on behalf of the church, representing not only St. Peter's but the wider church. And before that begins, the young people who are part of the confirmation class, when they were confirmed, they stopped wearing the little red and white robes of the acolytes. Part of it is because they were growing so much. They didn't fit into them. But there is a tradition in Christianity that the wearing of the white alb is a symbol of a kind of ordination of the priesthood of all believers. When the Queen was crowned in Westminster Abbey, she wears an alb that she's consecrated. So we're delighted. So they're going to not kidnap, but youth-nap Cam. And any other members of the confirmation group and they're going to go into the sacristy and do a little magical transformation. And I invite, Jack, you can help. I invite T and Mimi and John Reed to begin our journey.
There are three verses of a poem which I wrote earlier last week in your program. But last night I thought, gee, I better look at that because Albert had asked me to read it today. And I realized that it finished up as though it was the end of a funeral. So I whacked up another verse which I will give you now. Just one other thing. I think Albert had asked a couple of Sundays ago for our thoughts, the three of us, as we did that, quote, discerning. And I mentioned that I had run into a lady on the street in New York and asked her, what should I do with this thing? And what I forgot to say on that Sunday was, she said, once you've discerned and once you've got lucky and once there is someone in the pulpit, remember that public speaking is not something which we all grow up doing. I mean, some of our kids do, but we try to control that. And she said one of the things you can do is just give little tweaks and little suggestions of how sermons have gone. And we did, for a couple of Sundays, then we gave up. And as you heard and saw today, Cam's sermons have been superb. Obviously from the heart, from her faith, and we've learned a lot. It's a gift. It's a gift that keeps on giving. And just luckily, I happened to include that in the last verse, which appeared last night. So this is a poem called Thanks as Cam Moves On, because she is moving on. It is not a funeral. The strident silence of a quiet word, her strong, soft voice of contemplated love, the lightness that encompasses the depth. Her being with us surely gave us all of those. A deeper depth than showed in any words, and yet an openness, so obviously there, which offered, but not pushed or ever forced, has been available for all of us to share. Her footprint will remain with all of us, in children, taught to live and love with God, while we who saw her come and grow give thanks for her who lived and shared our faith. Cam moves on now, but does not cast us off. The goals she'll strive for now need no great shift. She'll stay in Millbrook, here among her friends, her presence with us, God's ongoing gift. Cam.
I had a little trouble with the sanctuary.
Thanks.
In presenting these gifts, Cam, I would like to say that Cam has given us a great gift. She has given us the gift of her ministry, and she has lived out the words, when two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. She has brought his presence into everything she does. The role of the discernment committee was to discern her calling. And in the Episcopal Church, the community calls. And she was called, but she answered that call, which has been our gift. So we thank you very much. And she has brought so much to all of us and will continue to do so. Today is, like her ordination, today is a commencement. It's the beginning of a new life, and her new calling is profound. And I think what she is going to do for children, for education, for bringing spirituality into the education of children is a profound gift, just as you have given us a gift. So today we say thank you.
Yes, you are.
I told you it was a coronation. So Cam is and has been a very dedicated and loyal colleague to many who have served on the staff here over the years, from Ed to the current team, Ann Gillis, Marie Scagnelli, Amy Duncan, the Lysis family, and Nancy Vanderlee has journeyed with Cam over many, many years. And she represents those of us who have worked closely with Cam professionally over the years. So Nancy.
Cam and I have been colleagues in ministry at St. Peter's since the time of Brewster Beach, first when she was a church attendee. Our daughters were church school classmates and playmates. I've always valued her as a friend and guiding force in my own ministry at the church. I was very honored to be asked to play a flute cello duet with my daughter in the organ loft at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine at her ordination. I'm profoundly grateful for the privilege of having served with Cam for many years, drawing strength for my own music ministry by following her example. St. Peter's was very fortunate to have had Cam as a guiding force during the interim period before Albert's appointment. She kept Anime on track by being our liturgical guide from week to week. There were lots of last-minute emails and phone calls during that time. She also served as the liaison to the long line of guest preachers who filled the pulpit each Sunday. Of course, she stepped in to preach herself many times as well. Our choir has also very much appreciated Cam's role in our music ministry throughout the years as our alto, one of our altos. C.S. Lewis's definition of friendship summarizes our teamwork. Quote, "What draws people to be friends is that they seek the same truth," unquote. Cam and I have seen the same truth in terms of our interaction with students, both in our respective school settings and at St. Peter's. Mr. Lewis's philosophy also applies to our shared perspectives on the ultimate mission and character of St. Peter's Church as a faith community. Her influence has been far-reaching in many facets of this congregation's life. We will miss her greatly, but take comfort in knowing that many children will benefit from her expertise in her new position. Cam is truly a faithful woman of God.
So Nancy is presenting Cam with a cross that was very lovingly chosen by Bill and her daughters, and it's a Celtic cross, and we bless it together. We say, "Dear God, bless this symbol of your eternal and loving heartbeat, giving us life, hope, and immortality. May it be a constant reminder to Cam of the stories of salvation carved and depicted in its light. May she find the words and inspiration to interpret these stories and symbols for the generations to come. We give this cross to her in the name of God, life-giver, love-maker, and pain-bearer. Amen."
Amen.
So finally, as a parent and senior warden, Will Morlock would represent, and has worked with Cam over many years, will represent our vestry's commitment to our family and youth ministry that Cam has led so faithfully. Will.
Good morning. I know I speak for, I think, everyone in this room, in this church, when I say that we've been very, very blessed, and it's been a great pleasure to, certainly in my time here, watch Cam grow, expand, and develop into her ministry, her preaching style and abilities, which we witnessed with no better example than today, and her pastoral care abilities as well. And Cam herself says that she views St. Peter's very much as her spiritual home. What greater accolade could this church and this parish have? And I think also, I'm pleased to say also that that means that Cam is not leaving us. She will keep coming back to us. We've already booked her in for the Christmas Day service. This is very much au revoir, not goodbye. I'd also like to echo something which Cam said in her sermon today, which is, I think that life's been more than fair to us, that we've been able to share so much in Cam's ministry. I now think it's more than fair that other people have the opportunity to have that same blessing. And as a show of the church, the vestry, the parishes, support and gratitude for Cam, I have two things here, Cam. One is a card and letter signed by many of you, and the second is a monetary donation and gift, which really reflects what everybody here thinks and would
I have, in many different ways, tried to offer as many possible thanks as possible as I could in my letter to everyone in the keynotes and in my sermon. But I still do have to say that I can look around the congregation, the sanctuary, and thank every single one of you for contributing to who I am today. Every single one of you. You raised me up. You raised me, and you made me into the person that I am. That's a tough thing to do. And it's very unusual for a congregation who has sponsored a person for ordination to actually graciously call them back. I have to thank Ed for that. But it's tough on the congregation, and it's a challenge to be able to bring someone back. And the ways in which you have supported me and challenged me and lifted me up is just, I can't thank you enough. But there's another thank you that I have to offer, and that is to the originals who raised me up, and that's my mother, and my dad who's watching, I think, and my sister's here too. They were the ones that taught me and my sister and my brother to be compassionate, self-giving, and kind. And that is at the core of why I am who I am. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. And thank you, Addie. Beyond that, I'm without words. Just thank you. So the service continues in the bulletin. In 1993, my family and I came to St. Peter's and began a journey here with you. In 1997, I became Director of Religious Education, and I served until 2004, after having become a seminarian and a postulant. I returned in 2009 as the Assistant Minister, and in 2015 was appointed by the Vicar to be your Associate for Christian Education. After prayer and careful consideration, it now seems to me that I should leave this charge, and I publicly state that these roles and responsibilities will end this day.
Do you, the people of St. Peter's Church, Lithgow, recognize and accept the conclusion of this pastoral relationship?
We do.
You can say it's not fair. So I invite you to stand as we say these prayers. O God, you have bound us together for a time as priest and people to work for the advancement of your kingdom in this place. We give you humble and hearty thanks for the ministry which we have shared in these months now past. We thank you for your patience with us, despite our blindness and slowness of heart. We thank you for your forgiveness and mercy in the face of our many failures. Especially, we thank you for your never-failing presence with us through these months and for the deeper knowledge of you and of each other that we have attained. Now, there's a deliberate mistake in the next prayer. We thank you for feeding us abundantly with the sacrament of the body and blood of your Son. Now we pray, be with those who leave and with those who stay, and grant that all of us, by drawing ever nearer to you, may always be close to each other in the communion of your saints. All this we ask for the sake of Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord. Amen. So we have our offertory, walk in love as Christ loves us and gave himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God.